After my divorce, I went into a rebound relationship because I kind of felt lonely and isolated, rejected, and I felt like I had to replace some of those emotions so that I wouldn't feel lonely, so I'd feel whole again and complete. Turned out that probably wasn't the best idea. I got into a relationship with a gentleman maybe 6 months after I was divorced, and it turned out to be very, very stressful relationship where there was a lot of control issues and there was a lot of don't do this and don't talk to this person and don't wear that clothing and you're doing these things which makes me not trust you, and it was very insidious in the beginning, but it got progressively worse, and I realized I was really responding to that stimuli. It was like a stimulus and response, and I was responding to that stimuli in a very limited and negative way. And at one point I thought, gosh, this must be some sort of an addiction, because I couldn't leave. Every time I would leave, I would just come right back. I'd get that emptiness and void, and it would come back to the relationship. I knew I was in trouble when I started having physiological symptoms of some sort of an illness, and chunks of my hair just would fall out. I'd brush it and chunks of it would fall out, and I thought, well, I better go to the doctor because this doesn't seem right. And a couple months later, I finally go to the doctor after I endure a little more suffering, and I go to the doctor. At this point, my hair's falling out, I have gastrointestinal issues, I put on weight, I couldn't concentrate. I had severe chronic fatigue where I could barely get up in the morning, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is bad, And I go to the doctor, he refers me on to an endocrinologist because they knew it's possibly my thyroid. I go to the endocrinologist at some time in 2010 and they diagnosed me with Hashimoto's. My doctor tells me that it's a genetic condition and that it runs in my family. However, I did the research and it turns out it doesn't run in my family. And I was almost very fortunate enough and it was almost a privilege to have been diagnosed with the condition so I could reflect back on to my past and really become conscious of who I had been being, and I looked at that and I was embarrassed and upset and ashamed, and I thought, who is that person? Who is that person that's angry and frustrated and unworthy and sick and insecure? Who is that person? And so acknowledging that, I knew it was a stepping stone to something greater. So I finally get out of my relationship, of course. After enduring all this suffering, I did make a very... Whoa. Whoa.
Oh my God.
That is so funny.
That is a first. Wow.
My doctor prescribes me Synthroid, and I take Synthroid for a couple of months, which was a real blessing because it stopped all my symptoms within weeks. I felt better, I could think clearly, my metabolism was getting to the point where, my weight loss was going back down. I really noticed my brain fog was removed. I do a little research on Synthroid, and I find out that this type of medication eventually can get to the point where your thyroid will stop working and then you're solely dependent on medication. I thought, well, that doesn't agree with me either. So I find a naturopathic doctor, and he said to me, and I told him how I got my condition, it's stress related, et cetera, and he fully supported me. He said, well, how can I help you? I said, I want to take on my illness, I want to get better, and I eventually don't want to take any medication. And he said, okay, well, let's do this. So he supports me, we do some blood work, we start from the ground up and we start looking at certain things that I can do in order to change. And he takes me off the Synthroid and he puts me on more of a naturopathic medication called Naturethroid. And I start taking that and I just start taking better care of myself. So I really start reflecting on who I was being, who I didn't want to be, and who I wanted to become. And I was so motivated and excited, and I was so relentless in my pursuit of getting to happiness. For me, it was happiness and freedom, and as a byproduct of that, comes peace of mind and all the other things that we can enjoy in life. Because if you don't have your health, I mean, it's a struggle. It's a struggle to get through life. So I start learning about Dr. Joe's work. And I was so inspired by these people's stories, these people who had spontaneous remission of diseases, these people who healed themselves of these genetic conditions. And I said, I'm going to be one of those people. And I start getting up at 4:30 in the morning and I start meditating. And I thought, oh my God, I can't do this and I'm never going to be able to do this and it's too early and my bed's really comfortable and how am I going to get up in the morning? And then I persisted. I persisted with a certain amount of energy and passion and love, and I thought to myself, every time you doubt that, you get up that much faster and you push through that uncertainty and you push through that doubt. And every morning I would get up at 4:30 and I would sit with myself and I would meditate on who I wanted to become and what I wanted to create. But I found also when I stopped talking about my illness and my condition and I stopped talking about it, I stopped reaffirming its existence, and I started evaluating those beliefs about me, those beliefs about other people, the beliefs about the world, and I started analyzing those beliefs, and I asked myself, are any of these beliefs true, and are they leading me to freedom? How are they serving me in getting what I want, and how are they loving to me and benefiting me or those people around me? Within 8 months, it was probably about 8 months, I'd already stopped taking my medication at some point. Within 8 months, I went back to the doctor, my naturopathic doctor, and we did some blood work, and he said, looks like you don't have your thyroid condition anymore. I said, I said, really? He said, yeah. I mean, he even said, have you been taking medication? I said, no. He said, well, what have you been doing? And so I proceed to tell him exactly what I've been doing, and he looked at me and he said, I wish all my patients were like you. And ever since then, I've continuously expanded on my information and on my belief changes and held fast to a lot of self-development work. It wasn't easy, but it was so worth it. It was so worth the challenge. So I get up every morning grateful to be alive, grateful to have had the privilege of this opportunity to look at myself and want to be better and do better. So it's been just a wonderful, remarkable journey. This work absolutely saved my life. It absolutely changed my life, and it just continues to inspire me to be a better person, to be an example of someone who just changed their mind, who made a decision to change their mind so that I could live a better life, a life that's worthwhile living. I'm just overflowed with gratitude for Dispenza's work and demystifying some of these really complex concepts and making them really simple for you to understand so that they become practical and you can apply them in your life. And it's not, quantum hoo-ha and I can't understand it. And it was just, again, I wasn't special and I just wanted to try something different and see what would happen. And it's just been a really magical journey.